So what we're talking about today is this book, Change Anything. All right, so before I get into it, I want to mention again that one of the entire points of what I'm doing with this is to be able to have an epic life. We have to be able to have and actually implement and make epic goals. And not only write down epic goals, but make them come to be, right? Like that is part of having an epic life. But to be able to make goals happen, we have to be able to create habits, which is literally just being able to figure out what behaviors need to happen so that we can make these goals happen, right? Because I found after the last 25 years of writing crazy amounts of goals that I was doing about 10%, 10 to 15% were actually happening. And what I've been doing for the last maybe 5 or 6 weeks is kind of going down the rabbit hole of what it takes to really create a habit and finding out which habits we need to be able to create, get the goal we want. Okay, so we've talked about like tiny habits, we've talked about willpower, so here's the willpower book. We talked a couple of times about what was in this book. And then we were talking about the framework of habits, being able to turn behaviors into habits, right? And we got a little bit of a framework here, which is there's a cue, and then there's a routine, and then there's a reward. And if we understand that and we can start using that, then we can start creating the habits necessary to get the goals we want, right? But for whatever reason, with all the stuff that I've read and what we've been talking about, I've been just kind of instinctually going, okay, is this enough? Trying some stuff and then going, okay, is this enough? What's missing? And I still found that there were some aspects that were missing and I read, this is one of 15 books I read about habits. So I've read a lot about the habit stuff. This is one of the best one. Just requested the Change book through my library. Awesome. Yes, Change Anything. And I'm going to go through just a little bit about it today. Perfect. Listen to Habits IBM podcast this morning. Awesome. Yeah, I've been really studying this because, again, it's just, I see so many people talking about goals out there, and I'm constantly going, well, I do pretty well with goals, and I've been able to achieve some really big goals, but if I'm only getting 10 to 15%, it's like, and I'm using all these strategies that other people are talking about, then, and I've done it for 25 years. I can't have failed for 25 years. I wanted to dig deeper. I want to find what exact tools do we need to be able to make these behaviors become habits. So I looked at one more book, which is this Change Anything book. So that's kind of the background, right? Like I think my gut feeling is, with the tools in this book and all the other stuff I've talked about, I'm really ready to handle both the sides of creating a new habit and being able to change an old habit. Because, in one of the books, it said that you actually can't get rid of a habit. You can only change what's happening within the habit, right? Like that's an insightful one. Yeah, the power of habit is definitely a base. Right, so it was saying that you can't actually change habits, but you can change the routine. You can change what's happening to get the reward, right? So when I got to this Change Anything book, I want to tell you a little bit about the beginning part, and it made me realize again what was missing. Okay, so again, after all these books, I felt there was a little bit missing, and now we're going to get into what it is. Yeah, cover design sold me. Change Anything, the new science of personal success. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So the first thing they say, it's a whole group of authors. Carrie Patterson, Joseph, David, Ron, and Al. So we'll just act like they're buddies, because they are. They wrote this book for us, right? So that's awesome. So they said we're blind. Okay, and right away, it got kind of to the heart of what I felt was missing with all of the other stuff, right? And they said, mastering temptation is not solely a function of personal motivation, right? Like, so personal motivation seems to be what a lot of these habit books are talking about. We've got to motivate ourselves. That's why, I dug into this willpower book, right? Willpower is like being able to really connect with our own personal motivation, right? So then it says, That means that the model of human behavior that most of us carry around in our heads, the model we use to figure out how to change our own habits, is woefully incomplete. By relying on our handy but incompetent tough it out model, we routinely ignore many sources of influence that are working for and against us. Personal ability, to name just one. As it turns out, there are a lot of different forces out there that are acting on us all the time. Okay, so that was awesome. Like, that got me going. Okay, so that was one of the first things I read. I was like going, okay, it's not just personal motivation, right? It's several other things, and in fact, they go over 6, including personal ability. All right, so here's another one I wanted to say. Let's see. Okay. That's why when it comes to personal change, we first think of our lack of motivation. Our primary problem isn't that we're weak, it's that we're blind. When it comes to long-standing habits, what you can't see is usually what controls you. Like, if you can see it, you can change it. Right? Okay, so and that's the thing. I was going, I feel like there's stuff I'm still not seeing about this, and I've read a lot of books about this. I've studied it. I've done this goal setting stuff for 25 years, right? So if you can see it, you can change it. All right, so now I'm going to get into it. All right, so the 6 sources of like unconscious beliefs. That's part of it. That's part of it. But I'm going to tell you all 6 right now. So they start with the one we already really know, right? And it's the one that all the habit books focus on. It's what willpower focused on, and that is personal motivation. They say, this is tapping into our existing desires and wants. Right, we've got to clearly we have to be motivated to make these changes, or we're never going to do it. Which is why I've talked about before that you can't make someone change if they're not motivated to do it, and it's impossible, and it just completely wastes your time. And actually, I've seen there's science that, especially when you're debating with something about religion or politics or any of this stuff, generally, even if you actually have the facts, the more you argue with somebody, if they're not ready to change or they have no interest in changing, all it does is make them dig in and believe what they believe more, even if it's irrational. Right? So we want to be able to control this for ourselves. We have to have the desire, right? But the second thing that these folks talk about is personal ability, right? So personal ability, being able to gain the skills necessary to do these things. Switch talks about how extrinsic motivation only gets you so far. It has to be intrinsic, right? I think I read that it looked like you said, I think before it disappeared, you read about this in How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah, they talked about that a little bit. I'm actually going to be going through that book again really soon. Now, really quickly, so what they do, and I don't know if you guys can see this very well, so they kind of show what it is, and they talk a little bit about it, and then they have a thing called a change tactic. So let me tell you the change tactic for each of these. And again, I'm just going to go over these very generally, but over the course of the rest of this week, and as long as it takes, I might go over each one of these in one scope. Right? And again, even if it's only a few minutes compared to the epic like hour and a half scopes that I'm doing, we'll just do even shorter ones, and I might even do it tonight. So personal motivation, the change tactic they say is if you interrupt your impulses by connecting with your goals during critical moments, you can greatly improve your chances for success. Sounds insightful. Yes. Okay, so personal ability, that's number 2, right? Personal ability, the ability to get the skills. And this is really important, obviously, for being able to get these goals we want. We're going to have to create new skills to be the type of person that has this particular goal, right? So when I wanted to create a multi-million-dollar business, it took me years to really develop the skills necessary. Like, I had the desire for sure, but it took me years of getting all the skills necessary to make it so I was able to achieve that. So a change tactic for personal ability is changing persistent and resistant habits always involves learning new skills, right? Like, that's what I'm talking about here. All right, so here's another one. And a lot of times I know that some of these books talked about some of these things just very lightly, but we're going to go much, much deeper with this. How do you measure your skills acquisition process? Let me think about that. How do I measure it? Generally, and I've talked about this before, I talk about rabbit hole research. Basically, I'll all of a sudden I'll realize, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do that. And I'll go down a rabbit hole of how to find out how to do that. So for instance, right now, I'm completely fascinated with Periscope and sending Periscope people to a Facebook group, and then being able to possibly monetize Facebook groups, right? So I go, oh, I don't know how to do some of that. Now I know a ton of things about internet business and the way we teach business at Internet Business Mastery, right? Like that is one specific way of making money that I've done for 10 years. I know exactly how to do that. Well, rabbit holes are dangerous if you're not actually on a specific mission. But I call it rabbit hole research because when I go, okay, I want to know how to do this, I'm very, very specific. Like I can feel certain becoming more knowledgeable, but how can you quantify it? Well, if I now know the information I need to take the next step, then I feel ready for that. Whereas, like we've been doing that. Basically, I've been doing that with these scopes. I get so far, and I start working on it, testing it. We've started talking about other things, like we were talking about habits first. Then I realized there were some mindset stuff in the way. So we went back, did the mindset stuff, and then like the last couple of days I went, okay, am I ready to continue with the knowledge that I have? And I kept thinking, I looked through some of these books again and my notes and went, God, there still feels like there's something missing, right? And I looked at how for the last 6 weeks, some of the stuff I've been doing with the tiny habits, well, where is the tiny habits thing failing? If it is, where is the rule stuff that I have for my keystone habit? Is any of that failing, and where? And I kept coming to mind was yes. And then I remembered I listened to this book, Change Anything. I listened to it, I don't know, a year or two ago. And I remember there was stuff in it that was really triggering my mind. So I took it off the shelf, boom, and that was the rabbit hole. I read that first chapter going, okay, I need this skill of understanding all these different categories. So it's being very personally connected. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. Yeah, it's really getting that kind of both understanding what just-in-time learning, somebody mentioned that just a second ago, just-in-time learning, knowing what the exact next step is, and knowing if you've got the skill to do it or not, and then going down and finding who can teach you that thing, right? Like, had I not known about this book already, I'm not sure what I would have went looking for, but I would have really went on some rabbit hole research trying to find what are these other categories, all right? Okay, so yes, source number three is social motivation. Okay, so what out there, who are you around? What are you being motivated by the people that you're around? Like, this is incredibly important. And it's tough. We've talked a lot about the fact that in the whole world and desire of having an epic life, not many people want that. Not many people even think about that at all. They're just completely fine with their average normal lives, their blue pill lives. But if we're around that all the time, it can really sap, this social motivation. That is something we've got to be very, very clear on. And that is why, even as hardcore as it sounds, that's why I'm not around many of the people that I used to be around, because I didn't want to hear them go, oh yeah, this epic thing. Well, and this is why I had to escort somebody out of the epiclifeleague.com. I had to escort them out because they kept saying stuff like, oh, well, just having a regular life is totally fine. I'm completely content. And I'm like going, yeah, bullshit. That's not what we're about. That's totally fine if you want to go be content, but be content somewhere else, because we're about epic. We are about heroic lives. And I was even asking the person, he's like, oh, I do this and I this. I'm completely fine with doing that. And I was like, well, if you looked back, would you go, ooh, that is absolutely epic what I did during that time of my life? And he's like, yeah, I just think that's a hypey word. Well, think that's a hypey word in another room, right? Like, get the hell out. So anyway, so that's the social motivation. That's why I'm being so careful with that Facebook group. right? Yeah, just that desire to have epic. Now we need the skills and we need to understand all of this kind of stuff, right? Like we need to understand that social motivation is a part of what's making the habits that we're trying to create happen or not happen. Right? Yeah, and actually, this person, I know the person. The person is a student from my Internet Business Mastery course and kicked butt with it. He is a model student. But when it comes to epic, that's a whole separate thing. Yeah, that's real. And it's okay for us to want epic lives. Yeah, get the hell out, you normal person. Yeah, like, honestly, you can go be, and he even like joked about, well, maybe I'll start a group called, normal lives or something. And I was like, as much as that was a joke, go do that. It'll be massive amounts of people. I will never have the amount of people that you'll have in my group about epic people, because epic people are under 2% of everyone I've ever met has even thought they want something like this, right? Okay, so social motivation. So here's the change tactic. Bad habits are almost always a social disease. If those around us model and encourage them, we'll almost always fall prey. Turn accomplices into friends, and you can be 2/3 more likely to succeed. This is why it's so important to make sure you are in control of who's around you, right? Like, and just think about it. If people around you, and I had a friend like this when I was really first starting, he would say, "Hey, let's go do this," and I'm like going, "Yeah, 2/3." He was like, "Hey, let's I don't know, let's go-kart racing or something like that." And I was like, "Well, tonight I'm working on my business. Like, I've got all this stuff. I'm learning so much stuff, and I want to put it into action." And he's like, "Come on, man. You've been working a lot. You've worked enough." Right? Like he didn't realize it was a mission for me. And he kept trying to get me to go do other things, and always had something to say about, why are you even doing that? You make good money with what you're doing. Like, you're fine. Now let's go play. That's work. Now let's go play. And that was constantly a motivation, and he had to get the axe. I couldn't be around that, because it would completely suck my willpower. I hear that from my wife. Yeah, my ex-wife used to say a lot of stuff like that. She's like, "Haven't you been working literally all day and it's been 12 hours?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm nearing a breakthrough. This is awesome." Right? So now you can buy him as a pet. Right. All right, so next one. So that was 3. Yeah, no doubt. So again, number 1, personal motivation. Number 2, personal ability. Number 3, social motivation. And number 4, social ability. Okay, so social ability. So the change tactic here is change deeply. Okay, let me re-say that. Changing deeply entrenched habits invariably require help, information, and real support from others. Get a coach and you'll make change more likely. Well, really, I'm also adding get a community. That's what Epic Life League is, as far as going for this epic stuff. And coaching, that is literally why with Internet Business Mastery, we have coaching courses for both our Academy 101 course and our Automated Income Machine course. We do coaching because that is the thing. Yeah, Epic Life is not a 9-to-5 thing. Absolutely. It's every moment you choose it to be. You don't take weekends off, right? So with the internet business stuff, that's why we added a coaching element to it. And I'll tell you what, almost every one of our biggest successes took coaching, right? Like they were the coaching. Yeah, coaching and community equals fast change. And right now with the Epic Life stuff, even though we're going on the journey together, on some of the stuff I might be one step ahead, and I'm coaching plus the community as I didn't see who was saying that, but yeah, coaching and community equals success in this, and that's what I'm trying to do with it, right? So that's social ability, being able to put things around you and be in groups and get coaching and be around the right people to do it. But broke, right? Yeah, I understand that. Level 1 might be getting to the point where you can pay for coaching, right? All right, so source number 5. Now we're moving into another section. So we've done the personal side, now the social side, now we're getting into the structural motivation. All right, and so what they're saying is the change tactic on this is directly link short-term rewards and punishments to the new habits you're trying to form, and you're more likely to stay on track. Now, really, this is a little bit of, like I said, some of these other books had pieces of this. This is the structure. This is the plan that we're going to use, right? So this one talked about when you're trying to change, when you're trying to actually change a habit that already is entrenched, we try and go after the routine that we're doing. So instead of maybe getting a pizza, short term is the operative word, yeah. So, instead of getting a pizza, or instead of eating the whole pizza, if you do get it, it's like we want to start having structural motivation and understand and plan in a way that's going to lead to possible success. Like, for instance, I've talked about, thanks again for the hearts, guys. I've talked about the rules that I've set up for my keystone habit, which is basically getting back to health, and it's losing 2 pounds a week, right? Like, I chunked it down to just a small, easy thing to do, which is the 2 pounds a week, right? That's a natural, it's more, it's going to take longer than obviously 30 pounds in 30 days and this kind of stuff, but I want to make it actually work and set it up ahead of time, have the structural motivation to know it's more likely to work when I'm more in touch with reality, right? So we want to make a plan. I ate whole pizzas. I hate it. Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what. So I've switched. Part of the habit that I'm creating with the 2 pounds a week is that I'm not on a diet, and I can eat anything. I can eat anything, including desserts. But I've set up a structure to make it so I'm more likely to succeed. So I can eat anything, but I can only eat when I'm really hungry. And I'm actually finding that I'm only hungry once, sometimes twice a day. Like yesterday, I had one meal. Are you out of here? Later. So I had one meal and an apple and some, what's it called? I had an apple and jerky. This really awesome jerky. That's all I had yesterday, and I wasn't hungry. I wasn't starving myself, and at lunch, I had a hamburger and a salad. So it wasn't like I was like, ooh, I'm doing the paleo diet, or I'm vegan, or any of that stuff. I'm starting with a structure that, will make it so that I have more of a likelihood to succeed. So that's the structural motivation, is understanding, setting it up so that you, setting it up from the very beginning so there's more of a likelihood that you're going to succeed. Oh, I thought you were going to say you were going to eat it later. Yes, yeah. With the desserts, the main goal, and we did that. We actually did that. Eat almost everything, just smaller portions. Well, that's the second part of my thing, is I eat only when I'm hungry and until the moment I feel satisfied. So generally, I'll eat a very small portion, and then I'll wait and go, yeah, I'm completely satisfied. I do not need more. So last week I did have pizza. I had one of my favorite pizzas, and I had 2 pieces instead of half or more of the pizza. And 2 thin slices of pizza. I stopped for a while, and then I was like, I'm completely satisfied. Just not food prep. Yeah. The next level for me, when I go to the next level with this, with my keystone habit, this weight loss stuff, the next level will be adjusting the foods that I eat, making sure it's more of the what I know is healthier foods, but it's going to be about, maybe I need to start learning, again, even the structural ability is the next one. Maybe I need some skills, or, the personal ability. I need some skills to be able to cook fast, but cook really delicious food, because I've never really gotten into that. But that's something we'll get into. So the sixth thing is structural ability, and this is the final one, and then we'll be done. Structural ability, change tactic. Small changes in your environment can have surprising effects on your choices. For example, just add a few visual cues to help you focus on your goals, and your behaviors will change rapidly. So for instance, and again, some people talk about some of these little pieces of them, but not all of them together like this. So structural ability would be, not having the crazy food. Like, here's one of the things, even though I can eat whatever I want, I do not keep any desserts in the house. I don't want those structural cues, right? Like those are things, those are my environment, right? So I keep my environment very, very healthy, right? But if I go out, and I see the dessert, like yesterday, oh my gosh, there's this place called Longhorns, and it's a steakhouse, and they have this pumpkin spice, like little cake thing with buttercream frosting. Oh my God, this thing is insane. And yesterday I was with both of my daughters, just having one of our chat lunches. We talk all about this epic stuff, actually. We were all going, oh my gosh, look at that. And I was like, okay, we can totally have that next time. Next time we go to lunch once or twice a week, basically. We'll do that next time. And here's what I'm going to say next time. I'll go, yep, we can totally have that. What about next time? We'll get it. We'll catch it next time. And it's funny because we all went, yeah, that's better. Let's do that. Yeah, restaurants make it very hard for diets. Yeah, and diets make it very hard to do well. That's why I'm not on a diet. That's awesome that you talk about this with your kids. Yeah, thank you. Actually, it's funny, in another group, I think I talked yesterday about what I'm up to this week, and one of them is I'm learning how to monetize Facebook groups, excuse me. And one of the things I did was I bought yet another course, and in their group they were like, oh, who are you and what do you do? And I was saying, really, this Facebook group, I think I told you, is based on, Cheesecake Factory. I actually go there about twice a month, and I haven't had cheesecake in a long time, even though I go there, and there's plenty of amazing cheesecakes there, right? But anyway, so I was saying that the person I'm talking to here is the 19-year-old self within me. That's one person, right? That person, when I go, here's the information you need to have an epic life. Like if I could go back and teach myself at that age, 18 or 19, when I was just about to go out into the world, that's what I want with this. But the other side of that, I have the chance to kind of do that by building this information and giving it to my kids. My daughter's 18 right now, and my other daughter's 15. So we talk all about this. So basically these scopes are a pre-chat with my daughters. And one of my daughters is in the group. The other one was like, okay, I guess I'll get around to it. But anyway, so that, that is what this is for me, is finally, unfortunately, it took me 25 years to get to the point where I'm going, okay, finally I'm going to do this. And I got to be 44, but really I'm talking to that 18, 19-year-old self. Here's how to go live life. Now, the difference is I've got 25 years of experience of knowing what not to do and what worked. Some things I did completely worked, right? Like having a multi-million-dollar business, boom, I did some things that worked. But, there's a lot of things I didn't understand about relationship freedom, mental freedom, all these things that happened. And that's what this scoping, whenever it says Epic Life League, that's what it's going to be about. And epiclifeleague.com, the Facebook group, that is what it's about, is developing this and making it so we have that epic life. Now, again, Change Anything, that's the book we talked about today. I'll do a quick recap. So, we're talking about the 6 sources of influence. Here's all the different influences we have that are happening on us while we're trying to create these behaviors that will become habits, right? So we want to know about these. So this group of people talked about the fact that, let me find it here, that we have to be able to see and understand these. We have to have that awareness. The biggest benefit of freedom is happiness. Yeah. Well, in happiness, you can't go further down from that, right? Like well, I'll get into that another time. That's another thing that'll get me on another rabbit hole as well. So the 6 sources of influence. The first one is personal motivation. Second, personal ability, having the skill to actually do the things that will make it so we can have these behaviors, right? And number 3 is social motivation, right? This is, having the right people around us, the motivation out in the world, making sure to take control of that so we're not having these, bad motivation going on outside of ourselves. You just made me push this book up on my queue. Awesome. Yeah, that's... I'm barely to page 17 with this. Now I'm almost done with the book, but this is it. Yeah, see you Eddie, what's up? All right, catch you on the podcast. Awesome, see ya. Okay, so social motivation. Then we also have social ability. My scoping schedule is 7 a.m. Pacific, and sometimes I also do 6 p.m. Pacific. Just depends on what I'm going through and what I think I can share. But those are the two times I mainly target. Thanks for asking, actually. All right, so social ability, again, that's being able to change these entrenched habit through information and stuff out in the world, using the stuff out in the world to help you, right? Like get those social abilities. Then we got structural motivation, and that's using rewards and punishments for ourselves, actually using them instead of them just happening to us. We get control of them and use them for ourselves. And then there's structural ability, which is basically changing our environment, designing our environment to help us succeed at getting these behaviors to become habits. Boom. So there you go. That's it. Any questions on what we talked about? And while you're writing these down, what I plan on doing is going through, again, the next week and a half. Thank you guys for the hearts. Again, that's just letting me know that you're finding value in this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, any of the chapters that I think will be valuable to talk through with you, that's what I'll do. Right? And I might even do one tonight and start working on that personal motivation. And again, I'm going to try some long, some short. I might do a little 10-minute one here and there going, okay, this is what they said. And this is the only main point that I got from this chapter. And then we can talk about it. So there you go. Again, any of the hearts, if you're not already following me, click the little guy down here and you'll see my name. Click the plus sign next to it. And definitely, if you're not already in the Epic Life League and it sounds intriguing to you and you want to be a part of the journey and the quest to create an epic life, definitely check out epiclifeleague.com. When are you going to go public so we can buy shares? Yeah, well, I'll tell you, my long-term plan with this is I am absolutely designing and creating a course that but I think I'm looking more 2017. I've got a lot that I'm designing and putting together and testing, some final tests on some things. And that's where this is completely helpful. The value that I get back from this is seeing what you guys ask, especially in the group and stuff, seeing what's going on in our interaction makes me go, oh, okay, I got to talk about this mindset here. Like, we can't go on until we have this mindset. Because for like 2 weeks, we were talking about all this goal stuff and all this habit stuff and creating habits. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. Somebody asked me something and I went, wow, that's a fixed mindset. I got to show everybody about this whole fixed mindset versus growth mindset stuff. You have to have that before you really can create these and have these amazing epic goals. Right? And that was, I noticed also that some of these mindsets are the things that got in my way. So I've been developing all of that. So yeah, 2017 is actually where I'm targeting going, coming out with something. Although I'm going to do some little like really cheap like $10 or $7 Facebook groups to be able to go deeper into some of these subjects. And I'll start with that too. Goals are awesome. Action is where it happens. Yeah, well, if you can actually make the goal happen, which I know some amazing epic people, and when we were talking about goals, they almost all of them had stopped doing hundreds and hundreds of goals. Like a lot of people say, man, write it all down. Write all this goal stuff down. And they were doing it, and I was like, wow, with hundreds, because that's what I did too. And in fact, I just whipped out the book that taught me about it originally, which is Awaken the Giant Within by Anthony Robbins. And he's got like 4 categories, and you just write everything. I want to swim with dolphins. Like anything. It can be anything. So I used to have hundreds of goals, and all my epic friends went, yeah, I started paring all that stuff down to just a handful of goals that I'm really passionate about doing and really want to put the time, effort, and the real work that it's going to take to get it. And I was like, well, how well are you doing with that? And they were still having problems, even though they're epic humans. And so that's why I'm like, we got to dig down and get this, because I'll tell you what, this is the foundation that makes everything else we're going to talk about possible. Right? Like, this is being able to change your behaviors and make the habits and get the goals that you want is what being epic is. Yeah, that's awesome focus. I didn't see what you said there, Dakira. Sorry about that. I was on my rant. I was on my rant. So this is the foundation. Then we're going to get into there's so much. Oh my gosh, we're going to get into the mental, the emotional, relationship, physical, all the different things. Epic humans crack me up. I don't know why being called human makes epic humans. Yeah. Uh, Thanks for today. By the way, I bought Jeremy scopes and like to give it to you. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. Just private message me in Facebook. You can do that through the Facebook group. This brings business and personal together. Absolutely. Really, if you haven't got this personal stuff taken care of, it's really hard to do business. Like, that's okay. I agree with not writing tons of stuff, but more along the lines of identity habits. Yes, identity habits. We talked about that. Yeah, trying to get, changing who you are as a whole human being. What does this type of person do to do that? Conceiving a higher level than doing. Yes. And that's why I'm trying to take my time with this. I'm in no hurry. This is what I want to do, but I want to do it right. I don't want to come out with just a simple blog post. Here's the 6 ways to create amazing epic habits. I want to actually know how to do this so that it can be consistent. Then I know any goal I'm going to put out there, I have all the tools to make it actually happen. Strange that not more people in the personal development industry talks about this. Yes, and I'll tell you what. Here's my thoughts on that. Most people that write a book, by the way, are just researchers. They don't do it. They don't, teach it constantly, and they don't even dig very deep into it. That's why I read like 15 different books on habits, and I was like, most of them were barely average at best, right? I mean, this was a good one. Again, I like the ones that have some research behind them at least, and then I'm going to test them as well. Is there ever going to be a time when you can plug in and learn something fast like the Matrix? It's funny you mentioned that because I don't know if you noticed, but if you saw the post that I put out saying I'm going to Scope right now, the background is actually a screenshot from the Matrix movie where they click the load button. Right, I actually went in and picked all these screenshots from the movie that I thought had to do with different categories. So that is actually what that is today. And when I post the replay, it'll still be that screen, the load screen. It's the load screen right before he uploads Kung Fu. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. I think with, again, the transhumanism stuff, all the different augmentation we're going to be able to do, and they're already doing with the body, cybernetic type stuff that they're doing. I mean, we have people that have robotic pieces in their bodies right now. I mean, it's not far off. So, but since we don't have it yet, I want to find all the ways we can do it without it until we can do something like that. Right? Like that is literally, you're literally talking about what I was thinking when I was like, I want to make this as if we're plugged into a computer. It's just ones and O's. If we do the right pattern, we will get the thing we want. That's what I want with this. I'm going to know jujitsu. Yeah, I wish I could do his voice. I want to know Kung Fu. Yeah, I don't know how to do Keanu Reeves' voice. But that is what I'm doing with this. I'm trying to make the Matrix real with what we actually have in reality. Not just a fantasy movie, right? Like, how do we make that actually happen? And again, I mentioned a week or so ago how the other movie that I'm going to tie into this when we get there is the movie Limitless. Because when I saw the movie Limitless, just like the Matrix, the movie itself, Limitless, is just okay. I mean, it's an okay movie. It's not as awesome as The Matrix, the movie itself. But the concepts behind it, I got out of the movie Limitless and I mapped out all the different categories they were talking about, taking this pill, and it opened up all these aspects of the mind. And it's such a bummer that everything has to do with taking a pill. Like, we can't take that pill. Those pills don't exist. We have to find ways to actually cognitively do this. So that again is also what this Epic Life League is. All right, guys. I think that's it. Unless there are any other questions or any questions I missed. I feel pressure to complete outline product, but how do I say no to epic sources like you? Well, it depends. Life is the pill. Yeah, you're the man. Thanks. Well, here's the thing. Like, I completely agree. Movie was okay, but the ideas in the movie Limitless really inspired me. But without the pill, yeah, and it's awesome. I'm so glad the way they ended that movie, and I won't ruin it for anybody who didn't see the end of the movie, but I'm so glad. And I actually watched, they have several different versions of the ending, and I'm so glad they went with the ending they went on that movie Limitless. That totally tied into more how I feel about trying to make our mind this way. But anyway, saying no to different things. Here's the thing though, you have to have, if this is speaking to you, then that means that there's still stuff you want to work on. To me, this could be part of your morning ritual. Right? And I put these things on YouTube, and I cut out a bit of the beginning where I'm saying hello to everybody, and I cut a little bit of out here and there if we get too much talking about outside things. So if you can't watch live, definitely check out my YouTube channel, because I'm putting it in there, stripped of some of the Periscope stuff that might be a little more time consuming, like me saying hello to everybody or hey, what's up, all that kind of stuff. I cut some of that stuff out, and I do it very specifically. I say the name of the scope, then I say hello to everybody, and then I say the name of the scope again, and that's where I start. Thanks for the YouTube. Yeah, I've got some more stuff going up there today after we're done here. But I think that stuff that gives you that information and energy. See, this isn't just motivation to me. I want to, as much as I love explaining this and having these epic conversations, it's about implementation. And the stuff I'm going to talk about and the stuff I'm going to design and put out there is going to make it so things like your business, you can use them towards your business. And it will root out some of those mindset things that are maybe stopping you from doing some of this stuff. So you got to be careful and choose the right stuff, right? Like rather than cutting out something that might be incredibly valuable and useful for you, which is what I'm trying to make this, maybe look at something else out there that you could cut out. Most people watch, I think it's 4 to 6 hours of television a day. Like, that's crazy. There's stuff that could be moved. Watched The Matrix back in 1999 when I was 20. Didn't like it. Saw it again some days ago and loved it. Wow, you didn't like it. That is so crazy. Yes, but so much gives me energy. Still haven't made any money. Yeah, you'll have to figure out what are the things that have potential to be useful to you. And, and if this isn't it, then that's completely fine. I mean, that's, you've got to figure what that is for you. And again, I don't know. I haven't been able to find anyone talking about this specific stuff, which is where I think I've got something unique, right? Like, people talk about different categories of stuff and all of that. And that's what I love. This is how I am about life, right? No TV for me except for a few hours a week. Yeah, I'm about to that. I'm about to that as well. I think you do too. Well, thank you. Thank you, Paul. All right, anything else? Anything else you guys want to talk about before I go? And I think I might be scoping a little bit more tonight. I'm going to go through that first one, personal motivation.